How's the practice today, Jeff?
It's good.
Yeah.
Good weather and anybody could practice today. It'd
Yeah.
be nice out there.
You guys, you players seem focused this week?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Jeff, what's the game plan for this weekend? I think you guys said, is it a bus up and a flight back? Is that the new,
No.
or are you just flying the whole way?
Yeah, flying the whole way.
How much of a difference does that make?
Well, about 8 hours.
Is it like an important, adjustment to be able to have that advanced
you just-
preparation time?
Yeah, I'll just imagine you're a 6'4", 330-pound person. You want to be on a bus for 6 hours or a plane for 45 minutes? I mean, it's a big difference, and not just for preparation, but it's also for your comfort of your body. And just those guys get off that jet, and they're a lot more ready to roll than they are getting off a bus. I mean, and just the planning of a bus, and just do you go 3 hours and get them off and feed them, and there's another hour, and then it's down to 7-hour trip. I mean, all those things are just a nightmare to deal with. And really grateful that Dr. Compost got that done for us.
You've talked about how that wasn't really the initial plan. I'm curious if there's any other kind of adjustments or conveniences that it's easier to find when you're 11-0 or anything else you've changed.
That decision was probably made coming off of last year. I don't know, probably COVID and just, budget cuts from still suffering from the year before. I imagine just a way for us to save money. And hopefully, with what's been going on, we won't have to be in that situation anymore, I hope.
On this matchup with North Texas, what do you guys have to do on the offensive end to be successful this week?
They rushed the quarterback well.
Yeah.
They've gotten to the quarterback. Coach has done a fantastic job. I think they were rated maybe 120 or higher last year, and they've climbed up substantially this year. They run the ball. They're physical. They've got good athletes. They've recruited well. They've got a good program. And whenever a coach has done follow 5 a.m. JJ Monday. We'll let you bring your phone to the meeting. You just have to turn it off, JJ. If you act like an adult, we'll treat you like one, JJ. Gosh. It happens to me all the time. I'm the worst. My phone has a mind of its own. It just goes off, and those kids just bust my chops on it. What were we talking about?
About the defense that North Texas has.
Yeah, and the 97 gave us heck last year. I'm sure he will again. He's a really good ball player. Middle linebacker, number 1. Both defensive ends are active. They got good players, and they're well coached, and you can tell they're playing hard for Phil.
Along those lines with the Roadrunner offense, we've seen their wide receiver group have a ton of success this season. What do you attribute that to?
They're really good.
Yeah.
They're always where it starts. I mean, Zakari and JT and Josh they're really good players. That's where it always starts. They practice hard every day. That whole room's really into each other. And Coach Lunny and Coach Stein do a really good job of moving those kids around and focusing on what they do well. And that's what good coaching is try to hide whatever weakness a kid might have and magnify their strengths. So we do our best to do that. And it's those kids, though. It always has been about the players, and it always will be.
What jumps out about Zakari and Josh and JT and just the way they interact? Like, is there a leader in that group, or what's their communication like?
No, they're all three do a really good job. I mean, obviously Josh and Zakari got voted into those single digits this year. I would fully expect JT to get voted in next year just because he's become such a leader. And we don't always mean, when we say lead, it doesn't always have to be verbal. I mean, none of those three are very verbal in practice. They're just very into the practice, and they go hard. I mean, perfect effort. And practice makes permanent. All those things we say 1,000 times, those kids live it. And they talk enough, but they're not like of course, when you have Leroy leading your offense, you don't have much room for anybody else to talk because Leroy's going to get it done for us.
It's interesting that every week all three of those guys at receiver get a decent amount of targets and have a chance to shine. Do you have to make a real effort to make sure everybody's involved with you?
Yeah, we do. And that's might be the only thing I do well as a head coach is we plan very well of how to get the ball to kids. And we are very intentional about how many touches each kid gets. Now, sometimes it just doesn't happen. Sometimes the defense didn't do what we had planned on them doing, and they took away something we thought we were going to get to. So I wish it was 8-8-8 every week for those kids, right? But we shoot for that, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it goes 12-2 the other way just because they played us way different.
How much does Frank have to be in tune with that to make sure he's kind of spreading it out and getting everybody their shot?
Well, it's just the coverage dictates where the ball goes. So, I mean, if it's cover 6, which means it's going to be cover 2 to one side of the field and cover 4 to the other side of the field, that's going to be a different look. If they're clouding the boundary, that's a different look. If they're sky in the field, I mean, just so many different things. If they're playing man, if it's a cover 1, is it 2-man? And so Coach Loney and them do a great job, and Coach Stein, of presenting the picture the best that we think we can anticipate it looking, and try to get the matchups where we want it. And sometimes it looks really good, and sometimes, the other guys coach too.
And it seems like all 3 of those guys have become pretty effective downfield blockers. What was the process like of getting them to that point in their
Just
game?
every day, just a mindset of getting a good wide base, sitting in your chair, mirror fitting him, and run your feet, hands inside, and just keep hearing it and practicing it. And the more you love your teammates, the more you'll sell out for your teammates. And our team has a tremendous love for each other, and they're not going to sell each other out. Like the other day, we threw a bubble into the field, and they brought corner fire. I mean, Zacharias sold out. I mean, just went in there and just gave up his own body so Josh didn't get knocked out. And not only did it prevent Josh from getting knocked out, we gained 7 yards. That's total selfless, right? I mean, that is literally one of our culture pillars. And that's what this is. There's no magic pill to this. When we got hired, one of the first things I said to y'all was, there's no magic pill. There's not. If there was, everybody would take the pill and everybody would be undefeated. It is literally a mindset of every day doing your absolute very best. And it's rewarding to my team when they would never admit this to y'all, but when they see a team like UAB, who might be bigger, might be more strong, or might even be faster possibly, and we still find a way to go win the ball game. And that's when you know your culture is really taking over.
This is your first trip to Denton leading the Roadrunners. What are you expecting from that crowd on Saturday?
Just from all accounts, I hear it's going to be a great road environment, and we're looking forward to that. We're very prepared for that. We've done that a bunch this year. Every single team we've gone into has had an incredible environment when we got there. We're expecting one Saturday, but I also know the Triangle travels with us, but our fans travel too. They have really shown up to these away games, and I bet we'll have some blue and orange there Saturday.
Jeff, going back to the wide receivers, JT and Frank were telling us that the wide receiver group call themselves the Bomb Squad.
Yeah.
Just what is that mentality like, and how those guys kind of seize that?
Well, they know that one of our triangles is we want to be a team run, but the reason we like to do that is so we can throw it down the field. I've made no bones about that since I've been here. We're going to throw it down there. And sometimes that looks fantastic and it's fun, and sometimes I'm sure you are up there going, man, why are we wasting those plays? But it's more than just a mindset. It's also the defense has to respect us. So it gives us a lot of short things too, because they know we're going down there, so they're going to back up a little bit, right? And it makes our receivers work really hard at it. We work hard at throwing the ball down the field. They love to go posts and goes and go high point the ball, and you can just see the progression, how much those kids have developed, just high pointing the ball. I bet you're like me now. When it's up, y'all expect it to be caught. Where when we all got here together, when we threw it, we just hoped it was near us, right? And then we were like, man, I hope we might catch it. And now we all are to the point where we all expect our kids to catch the football, and they do too.
You've mentioned tackling a couple times this week. How do you balance kind of addressing that versus keeping everybody fresh and healthy when you're this late in the year?
It's a great question. We've just tried to be smart, and sometimes the video gets out and my old coaching buddies will just shame me because we're tackling into high jump pits and we're tackling into pads. You just got to be smart, but you still got to go tackle. And the ground causes most of the injuries. So if I can tackle and keep them off the ground. So we just try to do the best we can to be creative and tackle into high jump pits as much as we possibly can, just so they land softer.
Jeff, it's Thanksgiving Eve. Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving dish, something maybe your mom or your wife?
I've already cried twice this week, JJ, and I've caught much shame for that. Don't get me all sentimental, My grandmother's banana pudding, I miss that tremendously. But my mother-in-law is quite arguably the best cook in the world, and she makes a bunch of mean dishes. So broccoli and cheese casserole, I'm a big fan. I'm a traditionalist, turkey and dressing. You know, Care Bear is a really good cook too because of her mom. And big dessert guy. Not a big, what is it, cranberries? Not a big fan of that. I had never done that, believe it or not. But sometimes as you get older, your palate changes. So maybe I could learn to eat that.
Jeff, you've mentioned this week wanting to ruin UNT's season, and it's probably the first time I remember you guys talking about a motivation that's kind of like external or tied to the opponent rather than just like internal in your culture. Is it kind of like an unusual lane for you guys to be in?
Well, we just got tired of hearing it. We just got tired of hearing their end talk about how they want to ruin our season. So our leadership council's like, why do they have to ruin ours? Why can't we go ruin theirs? And they're trying to get into a bowl. So, it's kind of like last week. Bill reached out to me. And, we've got our motivating factors. They've got their motivating factors. I'm sure Coach Traylor has theirs, and we have ours. So, we've got stuff to play for. Is the biggest deal for me is to get my team refocused on this game. And we have literally done our best to not even discuss what might be happening next week that we now know is happening next week, right? We just tried to make that a taboo and get locked in. That was the main point behind that.
All right, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all very much.
Your